Last on the session is Dawid Groenwald. Dawid is the coordinator of the CRI Post-Harvest Technical Forum. And Dawid will talk to us on the packaging update and feedback. Thank you, Dawid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with our presentation. As our chairman mentioned, it's all about the packaging, the update and the feedback on 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look at the original estimate for the 2020 season, it was 143.3 million cartons. We ended up with the number of cartons packed just below 150 million. In fact, 149.8 million cartons. Looking at the 2020 season and with the lockdown, I'm sure that you will agree with me that our citrus growers, their staff and all the other role players were under severe pressure. Looking back at the 2020 season and the fact that we packed nearly 150 million cartons, the 2020 season can only be described as a miracle. During the 2020 season, we received we've had 6 cases of cartons collapsing and unstable pallet loads. It was mainly caused by the points that I show there, rough handling, palletization protocols not followed, and then we also refer to the securing sheets, the number of securing sheets and the corner pieces. Poor quality corner pieces was a bit of a problem. And then something that we're extremely worried about is the wide range of pallets used during the 2020 season. We also experienced problems with folding and gluing of A11D cartons, and I'm not going to talk about or go into the details about that code now. We'll cover that a little bit later. And then another problem was the pallet loads and the bulk bins not properly secured during road transport. The best way to illustrate the problems will be to show you those photographs. 2 very good examples of rough handling, and I'm sure that you will agree with me that that is totally unacceptable, and we must definitely, that must be addressed. Poor quality of corner pieces, say no more. That is the result if the corner pieces do not qualify or do not comply with the specifications. We heard a lot about the cooling of the fruit this morning, and we will all agree that it's extremely important. Some of the export organizations informed us that, and most of us know it, that some of the buyers are insisting on the so-called Euro pallet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a specification drawing of the 1200 by 1000 millimeter Euro pallet. And if we look at the dimensions of the top deck slats and the very, very small gaps between the slats, we can only tell you that the airflow through that pallet will be an absolute nightmare. So we also know that certain buyers insist on the so-called Lidl pallet. Ladies and gentlemen, we did a lot of homework, and as far as we can establish, there are 4 different Lidl pallet designs. In our palletization protocol document, you'll see that we make mention of it there, that it's very important that the carton corners must be stacked on top deck slats. With this specific Lidl pallet design, it is definitely not the case, and you can see what the result is when the carton corners are not placed on top deck slats. The cartons are severely damaged. Unfortunately, we pushed for time, and I can keep you busy for 10 minutes just on these two slides only. But let's make it very short. One of the export organizations informed us that they're experiencing problems with certain 600 by 400 Clement Gold open display cartons. We contacted the packhouse and we asked the packhouse to send us some made-up cartons of this so-called 11D carton. Those cartons were taken to the SANAS accredited laboratory, and for top to bottom or for box compression stacking strength tests. The cartons did not comply with the box compression requirements of 875 kilogram force. Immediately after the box compression test, we separated the liners and the fluting just to check the paper combinations. Ladies and gentlemen, and in our specification document, you'll see we make mention of it several times, that the fluting used on citrus cartons must be semi-chemical flutings. Unfortunately, one of the flutings in this A11D carton was not semi-chemical fluting, and it was 100% waste-based fluting. Looking at those two photographs, it's quite clear that the reason for the collapsing of the carton, the two reasons were the poor gluing of the carton, and then, as I mentioned, the paper combinations. You'll see that behind the code A11D, we've got two question marks there, and we're not going into a lot of detail here. But in our packaging specification document, you won't find a A11D code carton there. We've got the A10D coded carton. All these problems were discussed with the export organization, the packhouse, and the carton manufacturing company, and they assured us that they will use the A10D carton in future. We mentioned the problems with loads not properly secured during road motor vehicle or road motor transport, and that is a very good example of what is happening if the pallet loads are not properly secured. And I'm sure that you will agree with me that that is a train smash. The same thing happened with the bulk bins. So we call upon our packhouses to make sure that the road transport people must secure the pallet loads and the bulk bins very, very properly. Again, back to cooling, and as I mentioned, we heard a lot about the importance of cooling today. We discovered with a shock that one of the packhouses in the Eastern Cape, they used open display cartons with no ventilation holes on the end panels. As you can see there, it's totally unacceptable, and those cartons were rejected. It was taken up with the packhouse and the carton manufacturing company, and they assured us that in future, all their open display cartons will have ventilation holes on the end panels. Research and development work on more cost-effective cartons must never end. And it's also totally unnecessary to say that the more cost-effective cartons must be successful in all respects. During the 2020 season, we conducted trials with A15C supervent cartons with liners and fluting with a lower basis mass. And as you can see there, the basis mass of the liners came down from 175 grams per square meter to 170. And the fluting came down from 165 grams per square meter to 150 grams per square meter. I must just point out to you that the 150 or the fluting with the lower grammage there is the newly developed Ultra Flute Plus. It's a very, very good product, and we were very happy with the results. When it comes to the stacking strength of the carton, it is definitely not just about the carton design and the number of ventilation holes. You'll see that we've listed the typical values: the burst, the COP, that's the water absorption, the short span compression, the ring crush, and the tensile strength. And ladies and gentlemen, those typical values are part and parcel of the carton specifications. So whenever we look at designing stronger and better cartons, it's vitally important to mention to you that the paper, the liner board, and the fluting that we use must, the typical values must comply with those typical value standards. The trials were very successful, and more semi-commercial scale trials will be conducted during 2021. A company approached us, and they were talking about the box on pallet bulk bin. They approached us and they requested us to run some trials with the box on the pallet bulk bin. A trial was packed at one of the pack houses in the Marble Hall area, and as you can see, we used lemons. One of the representatives of this company was present the day when we packed these trials, but unfortunately, the bulk bin collapsed in the pack house. It was very sad, and obviously the suppliers of this bulk bin was very disappointed, but they agreed that it's simply not strong enough and acceptable to the citrus industry, and they assured us that they will go back to the drawing board. A company in Australia contacted the Citrus Growers Association, and they requested the Citrus Growers Association to conduct trials with what they call coated corrugated paper packaging. The CGA referred them to the CRI. They contacted us and we asked them to send us samples of the so-called coated corrugated paper cartons or packaging. When we received the samples in South Africa, we were very, very disappointed to see that it's not coated corrugated paper, but it was extruded corrugated plastic. The price of these extruded corrugated plastic containers are very, very high, more than double than the corrugated cartons that we use. That is the first problem. And secondly, and I think we all know about the worldwide resistance against plastic, recyclability of those extruded corrugated plastic containers will be a problem as well. And then they're also not in a position to supply us with large volumes. A company manufacturing what they call stretch film also approached us with a request that we must conduct trials with their stretch film on our pallets. We called for a meeting with them. During the meeting, we pointed out to them that the plastic film will have a very, very negative effect on the cooling of our fruit, specifically the pre-cooling, where the airflow is horizontal. Also not cost effective, and again, the problem of the resistance all over the world against plastic. They've accepted that, and they've said to us that they will approach other products and commodities to look at this product of theirs. Ladies and gentlemen, the second last slide, that is the list of the accredited carton manufacturing companies for 2021. SAPI also announced, and we're very grateful that they agreed that they will continue with the testing of cartons during 2021 at their costs. The 2021 specification, carton packaging material specification and palletization protocols were finalized and distributed during the second week in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish all our citrus growers, their staff, and all the other role players a very, very successful 2021 season. Thank you. Baie dankie. God bless.